$63,000 European Championship is currently underway for the ESL Masters Winter. The best StarCraft 2 players are competing in two groups of 16 players, where they need to win 3 series to advance and lose 3 series in order to be knocked out of the tournament. I started my tournament with 0 wins, 5 losses, which meant that I was only 1 map away from being knocked out of the tournament, and I still made it to the playoffs. This is how I did it. My first best of 3 match was versus Bly. I considered myself the favorite in this series as I felt quite comfortable in the way that I played Protoss vs Zerg at that time. But of course Bly is not your typical Zerg player, so he pulled off all of his typical tricks and I failed for them, even though I kinda expected them. I lost game number 1 to a big Road Ravager push that I was not able to defend after I was too far behind in the early game. In game number 2, in a typical Bly fashion, he took gold base first on Alkyone, and I wasn't able to punish him properly for it. The game eventually went to mass Mutalisks, which I'm pretty bad against, and Bly is really good at, and I wasn't able to defend myself properly, and I was going to lose this series 2-0. Moving on to my second match versus Spatz, which I also consider myself a favorite in, but he's also a tricky player. I know that there's a high chance that he's going to be kind of cheesy, kind of aggressive, so I try to play as safe as possible. I immediately scouted his proxy robo in game number 1, which gave me a quite big confidence boost. I opened up with 4 Stalkers and a Stargate and made a Phoenix to lift up the Immortal before he can get up too high of an army. I really like this beginning for me, as I was able to shut him down before he was able to reinforce with the Warpism and more units. Unfortunately for me, as I was moving out with the next set of Stalkers, 6 Stalkers and a Phoenix, to go and unpower the robotics facility, expecting him to be somewhere around here on the map, we passed each other. As you can see, he's right here on the left side, I'm here on the right side. We passed each other without noticing. And this is where the game goes a little bit south for me. I go here to unpower the robotics facility. In the meantime, Spatz is counterattacking me with the full might of Stalkers, and I don't have a shield battery here at home to comfortably defend. At least for me, I had a recall available, but that was already an uncomfortable position for me, simply because I had my gateways unpowered here. So I couldn't really produce anything out of the production facilities that I had other than the Stargate. And, well, I'm also supply blocked and I cannot afford a Void Ray. So this is the all units that I had. It was 8 Stalkers and 2 Phoenixes versus 8 Stalkers and a Warpism. So basically these are like Blink Stalkers because you can micro them with the Warpism. So I didn't really like this position for me too much. The fight went on. I lost more Stalkers, Spatz defended his Stalkers very well with the Warpism, and I'm forced to cancel this expansion. If it wasn't for this move, I was very comfortable in this position, securing my expansion, you know, having a decent amount of army, decent amount of map control with the Phoenixes, but because we missed each other here, on the middle of the map, that really put me in a significant disadvantage, I would say. After cancelling my expansion, Spatz transitioned into the Blink Stalkers, which I expected, but I didn't expect him to expand so quickly on his side of the map. So for my side, I thought this is one base, so I was playing super extremely defensively. Even though if we look at the supply, it's 29 workers to 25, my expansion is on the way, I was feeling very comfortable in the position I was in. I just didn't expect for him to have this expansion up so early. I had no position or any availability for me to scout what he's doing because I was stuck on only gateways, robo, and a Stargate. I eventually made an observer, but that was mostly for like Dark Templars or Blink follow-up. I didn't really think that he would be expanding so early, so that was my first big mistake in the series. I kept defending the Blink Stalkers, Spatz kept sniping 1 or 2 units, but like I said, I was feeling comfortable in this position. I thought this is a 1 base all in, and he's committed to dealing damage here, so I was not probing up, I was not taking up, and that was my mistake. Eventually, I split off 2 of my adepts from the Warpism to see and do some harassment, and to check where I am in this game. That was my first time being out on the map in the 9 minutes of the game. When the adepts straight in, I see this. I see a fully saturated natural base, and I see probes coming to the third, which means that my opponent is already thinking about creating a third. And if I even saw it, I would be in a worse position, because the third is already done. Spatz is happily mining from here. So in my mind, Spatz is just creating a third base right now, because I was misjudging the situation of the game. The adepts deal quite a bit of damage. I think I killed like around like 6 probes or something. But I was starting to question my position into the game. Am I in a decent position? Am I winning or am I losing? Because in my mind, I was feeling okay. I didn't lose too much to the Blink Stalkers. I had a strong army with like 3 models and lots of Stalkers with Blink soon. But apparently, I was already far behind in this game, and that was my misjudgment. After deflecting Spat's Blink Stalker harassment, I wanted to go out on the map and try to all in, basically. I thought I have a stronger army. Spat is buying himself very nice time, cancelling my third base. And right now, after I'm killing this many Stalkers, I'm like, there's no way he has enough. After being like countered with a proxy robo, I defended his Blink Stalker pressure. I must have enough. But apparently, Spatz was ahead all along, which I again misjudged the situation in the map. So Spatz just goes in and surrounds me before I am ready to micro my units with Charlos, Archons and Blink Stalkers. I lose my War Prism, I lose my entire army, and here I am thinking to myself that I completely misjudged the situation into the game, and I'm quite upset at myself because I thought I know what's going on, but apparently I did not. Shortly after that, Spatz is counter-attacking me, and I have absolutely nothing to defend myself with, and Spatz played a pretty good game, number 1, and here I am down 0-1 in the next series of the tournament. Fast forward to game number 2 versus Spatz, where he kept me very busy with adept harassment and constantly shading in, forcing me to build buildings in my wall-off, and I was very hesitant of adding more probes because I wasn't entirely sure if he wants to all-in after that or not. I lost too many probes, and just 5 minutes into the game I was severely behind economically. Shortly after that, Spatz did a Blink Stalker Immortal time with 5 gates without a third base. He jumped into my main base and I was not quite prepared for this attack. I had less units, and he also sniped my only advantage in this game, which would be the upgrades. I lost the Forge with +1, and Spatz very cleverly disengages without losing too much and crippling my economy even more, because I pulled my probes from the main base. Spatz continues to warp in his units, and I'm kinda troubled. He has 2 Immortals with a War Prism and more Stalkers than me. The only advantage that I have in me is the Super Battery defensively, and this is the only lifeline that I have currently. I try to defend as much as possible. I try to micro, I snipe one of his Immortals. I have my own War Prism, and this was the only engagement which I was quite proud of, because I didn't lose the Immortal in here, which is very nicely targeted down by Spatz, and I managed to save it with the War Prism micro. And I think I'm like, okay, maybe I'm okay. I think I defended. This must have been a very committed attack for Spatz. But remember, I lost a lot of economy before that to the Adepts, and I also had to pull probes to the first attack. So Spatz just warps in more Stalkers, and I have less Stalkers than him. Right now I have no Super Battery to defend myself with, and eventually after the Stalker battle I lose game number 2, and I end up already 0-2 in series and 0-4 in maps versus the opponents that I consider myself to be the favorite in, and I was very upset at myself, so I need to bring it back. I had a couple days to prepare for my next opponent, and I knew that I'm not doing very well mechanically, so I started to grind out StarCraft 2 ladder as much as possible. My third opponent was Battlebee, the German Terran player, and that means that in round number 1 I had to prepare for Protoss vs Zerg, round number 2 I had Protoss vs Protoss, and in round number 3 I had Protoss vs Terran, so it made preparing for the next round even more difficult because I had to prepare for each matchup for each playday of the tournament. Game number 1 started with some light pressure from Battlebee with Cyclones and Hellions. I defended that without much of a problem. Maybe I over-defended a little bit with adding a second battery. I was thinking that this might be just more pressure with more Cyclones coming in later on, simply because Battlebee did play a Cyclone all-in versus his opponents in his previous matches. So I'd rather over-defend than under-defend. Shortly after the Cyclone pressure finished, I try to put some pressure of my own with the Blink Stalkers. I go in, I snipe a Cyclone. I see that he's going with a Raven, a Siege Tank and a Cyclone, so I am expecting a Raven push coming my way relatively soon in the next minute or 2. So while my opponent is still not ready with his amount of units, I brought a Warpism to the other side of the map. I warped in a couple of Stalkers and I went in for more Blink Stalker pressure, sniping his Siege Tank and not losing too much in the process, which I was quite happy about. I also again confirmed there is a Raven, that it's not out on the map and harassing me. So I split my Stalkers, one to the third base, one to the south side. I tried to deal more pressure with the Stalkers, but Battlebee, quite nicely prepared with his Siege Tank, defends the pressure of the Blink. And now the first big thing of the series happens already. I split my Stalkers, one to the south with the War Prism, one to the north with a Blink Stalkers to try to cancel a third base or something, I don't know, pick off reinforcements or whatever. But Battlebee is not really buying it, and he's just moving across the map, and I'm not fully prepared for it. It's 7 minutes into the game, I am expecting this push, but it's happening a little bit earlier than expected. I have Templar Archives not finished yet, which means I have no Storm. I have barely units out on the map, or sorry, I have barely any units in my side of the map. I have like 2 Adepts, an Immortal and a Sentry. and then an entire Terran army is coming my way. So right now I'm kind of panicking. My gateways are about to finish, I have a lot of them, but I just need like additional 30-40 seconds to get this production going, to get the Archons, the High Templars going. Plus I forgot to build a battery in my third base, which was a big mistake, because like I said, I was expecting this push, but I'm still not ready for it. Battleby just moves across the map without any care in the world. I lost an observer to the Raven here, so I knew the push is coming, but I was still not prepared. I'm trying to buy myself time. The Stalker's trying to flank him, pull back, there's Stalkers here, give me some time. But he scans forward and he sees a very little Protoss army, and he knows that he can just push forward here with a Raven disable. Even if I had a Colossus or something, he'll be able to disable that. So he just stims in forward without any care in the world, but he pushes forward to the batteries. And this was a big mistake from Battleby, I would say, to push into these batteries. He could have just easily go here to the third base. So I take a decent engagement, the best that I could hope for, considering the situation, but it was still not very good for me. I blink forward, I kind of like disrupt the micro potential from my opponent, but we trade. And the trade is not favorable for me, because I lost a lot of my tech units. I lost the sentries, I lost a lot of the Stalkers. I don't have any Templars warped in for Storm, and I don't have Archons ready. I couldn't really afford it. So the push continues. And here's the push number 2. I again don't have batteries ready. I was busy macroing up behind it. I was, repowering my batteries here. I have 3 High Templars in the War Prism, but I have no Storm yet. At least Battleby doesn't know that I don't have Storm yet. So I was trying to scare him off with like War Prism drop and so on, so he pulls back. But there's so many Widow Mines yet, and again, the biggest part of this is that I don't have these batteries ready. So the Terran army is able to quite easily trade versus my Protoss army. And there's like a lot of fighting going on, and there's very little that I can do in here. I'm trying to, use the super battery. In the meantime, I'm thinking I'm like barely defending, and maybe it's okay for me, but I knew that I'm not in a very good position in here. And I'm about to lose game number 1 of my first series, which is 0 wins, 5 losses, which means I'm only 1 map away from being completely knocked out of the tournament. And I'm not having a good time in this tournament. I'm very unhappy with myself because I prepared a lot and I was feeling comfortable in all the matches or all the opponents that I got myself, and I'm still not being able to win a single map. 1 map is not, like, I'm not capable of even taking 1 single map. I was very upset at myself, and yeah, the push just keeps on going, and I eventually start to lose this game, and I'm 0 wins, 5 maps losses in this tournament. So this could be the last game of the tournament for me. I could go out of the tournament being 0-6. That would be dramatic. That would be terrible for my career. So game number 2 versus Battleby started with him opening up with double gas, which means that he's going to be putting some pressure on me. So he goes for a 2 Reaper, 1 Hellion harass. I have a battery in position, but I don't want to show him this Phoenix. I could defend this pressure by lifting, a Hellion so there's like less damage, but Battleby is known for his Widow Mine drops. So I wanted to surprise him with the Phoenixes when he's going to be dropping the Widow Mines. And so far it's going somewhat according to plan, but I lost a couple of more probes to these and I didn't kill a single unit here. So it was a successful pressure from the Terran player, and I was feeling a little bit uneasy, but at the very least I was like, okay, he doesn't see the Phoenixes, and there's for sure going to be a Widow Mine drop coming my way. And there indeed was. He made two Widow Mines. He's about to send his drop in here, and then take a look at this. This Adept is not capable of blocking this Reaper from seeing the Phoenix. So he goes in, and just at the last shot, he sees the Phoenixes, so I have to reveal my hand, and he sees the Phoenixes. So my trap of trying to block his Widow Mine drop doesn't go my way. And after spotting that, I'm like, oh my god, I'm certain he's not going to be dropping the Widow Mines here. At least not blindly, because he was doing it kind of blindly. But yeah. Now that he sees these Phoenixes, he's not going to do that. So I was not having it. I was not happy that he spotted my Phoenixes. And so he does that. He goes back with the Widow Mine drop. But now I have to wonder, is he leaving a Widow Mine drop somewhere in the corner of the map? Is he waiting for me to reveal the Phoenixes? There's a lot of things that could be happening in this game. If only he would not be spotting these Phoenixes. So yeah, the game kind of continues on. I'm trying to do some Phoenix harassment, but Battleby is well prepared pretty much everywhere. He had a Widow Mine trap, he had Marines everywhere, and Cyclones, but I'm able to go around the map a little bit, try to kill some SCVs, but the game is not looking very pretty for me. I'm not feeling comfortable in this position, as I'm not able to find that much damage with the Phoenixes, and of course, again, The Widowmine drop was not completely deflected by me. And my third base is not the earliest, but it's going okay. This game is not going terrible for me, but it could have gone so much better. I'm still trying to find some damage with the Phoenixes, but not really much is happening. As I'm finally able to see some stray SCVs, I lose a Phoenix. And losing a Phoenix is very unforgivable, because the strength of the Phoenixes is in their numbers. If you lose a couple of them, it's harder for you to deflect Terran drops. You can lift less units to kill them, or like pick off reinforcements. It just takes more time, and time is everything. At this moment, again, the Raven push is coming, but this time I had the batteries ready. And I'm prepared for this engagement. However, I have only a singular Colossus. There's a big Terran army in here, so all I have to do is to put some good force fields, which I do, to prevent from the Terran on collapsing on me immediately. And I'm capable of defending the first Raven push, unlike in game number 1. The fight continues on. Now I have more Phoenixes. I live the Widowmines. I don't lose the Colossus. I have an Immortal on the way. I deflect his pretty much entire army. There's another drop coming to the third base on the south side. I defend that somewhat comfortably. I lose another Phoenix, but I would consider myself pretty far ahead in this game. Or maybe not pretty far ahead, but at least, you know, comfortably ahead, as I didn't lose the key units, which I didn't lose the most of my Phoenixes. I didn't lose the Colossus. I didn't lose the Immortal. So maybe it's time for me to counterattack. I go for the counterattack. I spot a couple of Widowmines. I'm trying to detonate them with a small amount of units. You know, right now, I'm kind of in a rush, you know? Just try to understand my feelings. I'm 0-5 in this tournament. I'm 1 map away from being knocked out of the tournament. And this is my chance to stay in the tournament. This is probably the first time in the tournament when I actually have an advantage. So I'm kind of, you know, like, not panicking, but like I'm feeling emotions that I need to finish this game. I could take it a little bit slower, but at least I know, you know, like I have a slight advantage, and I want to use that advantage for the first time in this tournament. I don't have a War Prism here to reinforce. This is not a very strong army from my side. I lose the Colossus. I put more pressure on my opponent. Like, I'm pushing him back, so I'm feeling good. Now finally the War Prism arrives, so I can do some reinforcements. I'm trying to stay calm in the meantime. I'm not trying to rush into his natural immediately, which I did a lot of the times in my practice games. I'm not happy to admit that. I'm trying to take it slow. But micro is hard, you know? I'm feeling a lot of emotion. So like my Colossus is like attacking here, my Zealots are attacking here. It's like my army is kind of split. It's not the perfect engagement for me, but at least I'm doing a lot of economical damage to my opponent. There's still more fighting going on. I think I can maybe break him. Now with the reinforcement point with the War Prism, I'm trying to go for the kill. However, I only have 1 Colossus here, and my army is like not doing very well. I didn't kill any SCVs in the natural. I don't have a sentry. I lose the Colossus, and I lose the War Prism. And here I am. Wait a minute. Am I throwing the game away? If I take a look at the army supply, it's in favor of Battleby. His upgrades are in his favor as well. He has a lot of Vikings. I don't have any like big tech units to come back with. I don't have Storm. I just lost all my Colossus. I don't have sentries. I don't have Archons. This is looking like a throw to me. And I'm again thinking, am I throwing? Am I throwing the lead that I just had? So I pull back to my base and I'm trying to buy myself time before Battleby is going to be counter-attacking me with my own counter-attacks with the Zealous. I want him to come back with his entire army, which he does. He goes to defend the run-bys. That gives me extra time to get more, you know, High Templars, get me a Colossus or 2. I got myself a second robot in the meantime, which gives me enough time to create the army, the strength of the army that I need to defend his stronger army with the upgrades. Now, after defending my counterattacks, Battleby is going for it, but there's another counterattack with the Zealots to buy myself time. Right now, Battleby has to decide. Do I go back with the army and give me more time, or do I just go for it and attack? And he decides to attack. Smartly, but he's deciding to attack, and I'm also trying to protect my Colossus as much as possible. I put my Stalkers in a position that they can attack the Vikings. I put some Force Tools, I put on the Shrimp Battery, but there's so many Vikings that my Colossus is not really surviving very much. Slowly, I'm trying to transition into the Storm. I throw down the Disruptor shot, but not much is gained from here. In the meantime, I see he's not mining in the third base. The counterattack with the Zealots is doing very, very well. So I think I'm capable of defending this if I can survive for the next 20 or 30 seconds, because I'm on 4 bases, meanwhile Battleby is on very low economy. My storm finishes, he doesn't know that I have storm, and he walks into one storm, and this is like, I'm going for it, it's time for me to go. His army is on half HP, I have a big army here with Colossus, with Guardian Shield and so on, and finally I can get my first map win of the tournament, and I'm still alive. So it's 1-1 between us, and I decided to go in game number 3 for more pressure in the early game. I start off with a Zealot, but I did delay my Adept by a little bit. I was supplied by just before that, so this Adept is a little bit later than it should have been. But I consider this pressure to be somewhat successful. He put a lot of his SCVs. I didn't delay myself too much, but I'm again supplied by 31 out of 31. A lot of mechanical mistakes. I think we were both kind of nervous because it was Torment Live on the line. Basically a best of 1 to stay in the tournament. Battleby was 0-2 in the tournament as well. I was 0-2 in the tournament as well. So whoever lost this game would be completely out of the tournament. Battleby defended the pressure somewhat okay, but I didn't think this was a complete failure for me, other than losing this Adept completely unnecessarily. I deflected his Widow Mine drop attempt, and shortly after that I went for some counterattack with the Blink Stalkers to finally do some pressure. I sneak my Warpism into his main base, I warp in some additional Stalkers, I see there's no Siege Tank attacking me, so this should be a pretty decent time for me to do some pressure with these Stalkers. I'm able to find a Raven kill, which is very good for me, but now I don't know why I did that, but it was pretty poorly done by me. I don't know, my fingers were not working properly or something. I went upwards with the Stalkers, rather than just kind of like stay here and elevate these Stalkers back to safety with a Warpism while waiting for the Blink cooldown to finish. My Blink cooldown wasn't that long, like I could maybe lose like 1 or 2 Stalkers, but I definitely could have just saved most of these Stalkers without losing a lot of them. But look what I do. Instead of like saving them to the right side, I just go upwards. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was thinking about dealing more damage. In the meantime, there was a Widow Mine drop that I had to deal with. My multitasking didn't fail me. I didn't lose too many pros, which was nice. In the meantime, I think I lost the Warpism. No, wait, I didn't lose the Warpism. I didn't save too many Stalkers, but like I'm dealing some SCV damage with these Stalkers. But it's not very good for me. It's like Battleby has more SCVs than I have probes. I lost a lot of the pressure potential with these Stalkers. So I wasn't really feeling comfortable in this. I lost all of these Stalkers. So instead of saving them too much, instead of saving like most of them, I just lost too many of them. I saved like 1. I killed a couple more pros with a Stalker in the main base of Battleby, but that was not very well executed pressure by me. I definitely could have done so much better. I'm just starting a 3rd base right now, and we're again in a very similar situation as to game number 1. I did some Blink Stalker pressure. There's a Raven that I killed, so there's like going to be a push from the Terran player, and yeah, I'll try to defend this push. However, Battleby did something different this time. He made a Banshee that I didn't spot. I tried to put more pressure on him with like some Zealot drops. I don't find too much damage in here, but I'm just trying to keep him occupied as much as possible, buy myself time. In the meantime, the Banshee arrives and it deals actually a lot of damage. Notice how I have a little gas in here, and you need like at least 2 Stalkers to beat a Banshee. 1 Stalker loses to a Banshee, and it doesn't even kill it quickly enough, so I don't have enough money to warp in a secondary Stalker, so this Banshee is actually finding much more damage than expected. But luckily for me, he just disengages with this Banshee and doesn't deal more damage, but there was potential for that. In the meantime, I was microing my Warpism to do more damage to him. The Banshee sneaks in to the natural base, and a very similar situation again. I just warped in a gas unit, which was a sentry, and I don't have a warp in ready to deal with this. I have Stalkers in the main base, but the Banshee, sneaked in for the right side of the map. And again, more economical damage is done to me. I lose the 1 important gas unit for me, which is the sentry, and I lose more probes. So in total, I lost like 8 probes and a sentry to a singular Banshee. And I know the Terran push is coming, so I'm feeling very uneasy at this moment, because I don't have the army to deal with that big Terran push. I spot him moving out, and I see this entire Terran army. In the meantime, what do I have? An Adept, a Colossus, a Sentry, a second Colossus on the way, and similar to game number 1, Gateway is about to finish, but I just need a little bit more time. I try to buy myself time with some Warpism harassment, but he shuts it down with the 2 Vikings, I try to pick up some reinforcements with the Blink Stalkers, but Battleblee is not stopping. This army is terrifying compared to what I have. Similar to game number 1, my batteries are not done. And you know, the intrusive thoughts are again creeping up to me. Like, am I going to lose this game to a push that I know is coming, but I'm just unprepared for? Luckily, this time Battlebee is not attacking immediately, and there's no Raven in here, so he cannot disable the massive units I have. He cannot disable the Colossus, so that's my saving grace. I'm setting up a flank to pick up the reinforcements. I'm waiting for the batteries to finish. It's time to defend. The moment I saw this siege tank here, I thought he has only 2 siege tanks, but turns out he had 3. But look at his army. His army is very, very clumped up, so the Colossus damage is going to be very good for me. So I thought this is the time for me to attack. I still have a battery in range of the Colossus. That's very nice for me. But I walk outside for a second. I walk outside with the battery range with the Colossus, and I lose it. But that's okay. I lose 1 Colossus, he lost 4 siege tank and pretty much his entire army. Considering how weak of an army I had and how big of an army Battlebee had, I consider this a W for me, a win for me. After deflecting this attack, this Observer was the MVP actually. Look at this. This Observer gives me the vision of Battlebee trying to drop me. He loads his units to the Medivac, I spotted it, and I was able to immediately react to it. I could have maybe killed 2 of these Medivacs if I done it properly, but I only kill 1 Medivac, which is already good enough for me, because that Medivac was full of units, and right now I know that my army is at least capable of dealing with his army. Instead, I don't have to, you know, I don't need to worry about a drop into the main base. I also had like spotter pylons just in case there would be a secondary drop. I left some units here, and now all I need to do is try to defend. I still have an observer on this side of the map, but I didn't see the SCV pool. I only saw the SCV somewhere around here, and I thought he's taking a 3rd base. I didn't know this is an SCV pool. And you know, if this is an SCV pool, I just focus on making units and, you know, take it slow. But what I do instead is I take down the forge. I think I start making probes, and like, I'm thinking this is going to be a macro game. I'm not adding pylons, you know, I'm adding a gas, like, yeah, I'm adding more probes. I think this is just, you know, another macro game. There's a 3rd base behind this for Battlebee. But instead, this is just an SCV pool. This is a complete all-in from him that I was not aware of. I even set up a counterattack to his 3rd base with 6 zealots. Look at this. I'm trying to kill SCVs at his 3rd base, which he doesn't even have a 3rd base. So this is the first time I'm going to be seeing this army, as he is already in this place. I'm like completely unprepared for it, but at least I have decent army positioning because I have army here with the batteries. I have like a little flank in here, and this little set of units is very important for me because I'm able to snipe the siege tank, which is a very good siege unit to deal with the battery positioning. So yeah, this army is going to kill the siege tank. I walk up a little bit. He snipes my robotics facility, so there's only 2 Colossus for me. The moment I see there's a lot of SCVs here, I know that I need to survive. I warp in a lot of zealots in the main base. There's a counterattack happening at the same time, so I'm picking off reinforcements. This is the army that needs to win me the game. Oh, sorry, this is the army that needs to win him the game. And I have the time, I have the money to build more units, so all I'm trying to do is buy myself more time. The zealots are picking off more reinforcements. I warp in more units, I pull back. He cannot connect his army, so he's like, okay, I have to go for it. I warp in more units. I have a flank coming from all directions, from the left side, from the south side, and from the main army. I also have a battery nearby, so he has to GG out, and I finally win the series 2-1. So this is my first serious win, and I'm still alive in the tournament. And that game was not going super well for me, so I was happy to finally clutch a victory. My 4th opponent was Arcfire, known for his proxy robo play, and there's not too much to analyze in this series. I will try to speedrun through it, but yeah, I'll try to put some key points in here. The first key point was absolutely scouting his proxy robo immediately. Pretty much the first location that I scouted. I got very fortunate here that I spotted this proxy robo, so I knew exactly what to do. I responded with a full wall-off on my natural base with a robotics facility shortly after, so I was trying to make like Void Ray and Immortals to deal with his Blinkstalker pressure, because he used to do this strategy a lot of the time versus me and versus others. I know when he's making that proxy robo like that, he's most of the time following it up with a blink. I was able to confirm that he's transitioning into the blink with my probe. And the game pretty much ended there because I had a perfect response to what he was doing. The 3-gate or 4-gate robo blink stalker versus, you know, mass immortals and Stargate. So eventually I was just able to defend the pressure. There was, you know, a lot of blink stalker pressure, but he really couldn't break me. He kept trying, he kept blinking, he kept sniping units. And yeah, I just kept making more units, and there was really nothing that he could do to kill me. He had pretty good attempt, and I think he microed pretty well. Considering the circumstances where I think he got completely countered strategy-wise, I think he got quite close to a victory, or at least, you know, close to making me work for my victory, because I thought I had a huge advantage in here. This 1-bay push went for so long that I was able to even get blink of my own. It's 9 minutes into the game, he's still on 1 base. And yeah, this is just the last defense right here. I'm gonna blink forward, snipe some units, there's just not much that he can do. I blink forward again, snipe the Warp Prism, and the attack finishes. And I'm finally, for the first time in this tournament, up 1-0 in this series, and I'm not on the verge of losing. And in game number 2, really not much has been happening in the early game. We both opened up with a Stargate. He opened up with a Phoenix, I opened up with an Oracle, but we never really met each other. And I was able to hit a very tight time with Blink finishing just before his Blink finished. And I had a little bit more Stalkers, and the moment my Blink finished, I go in and I just snipe Stalkers, and again, this is going to be just a big micro battle right there. I was very fortunate that his Blink was not finished just time. It was a very, very tight timing. In the meantime, I also put down a big Stasis Ward in his main base, and there was just more and more and more Blink Stalker micro. Eventually, he was just going to die to this, and for the first time, I win the series 2-0. So from being 0-5, and 2 series down, I'm 2 series wins, 2 series losses, and I'm up to play the last final series of the group stage tournament for me. If I win, I advance to the playoffs. If I lose, I'm completely knocked out of the tournament, but I already managed to bring back the 2 series. So here we are in the last series of the group stage for me. 2-2. Win means I'm going to the playoffs. Lose means I'm completely out of the tournament. And I was going for 1-gate expand versus Goblin because I know most of the time his response is that he's going to be going for a 4-gate. But he made it a little bit more tricky for myself. And 4-gate is pretty bad versus the robotics facilities. So I thought I have a very good build order advantage. However, the reason why he made it so tricky is because I killed this probe and I'm thinking, maybe this is not a 4-gate after all. Maybe I'm being tricked. Maybe there's, you know, like some proxy Stargate or something going on. Because he snuck another probe and there is indeed a proxy. But this is indeed a proxy 4-gate. But I'm not 100% sure about it. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a 4-gate or not. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly this is. I have this probe snuck in here as well from my side, and I see he's not expanding, so I'm fairly confident this is going to be some kind of pressure, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. I see the Stalker pressuring me at the front. I'm not too worried right now. This still could be an Oracle, so I put down a battery in my main base to prevent that from happening. I shade in the Adept forward, but the Adept doesn't see the Stalkers. So I shade in here, I miss the Stalkers in the middle right there. This Adept should stay here, and this is the first, this is like a chain reaction right now. If I have this Adept here, this wouldn't happen. So he goes in, the Adept shades in, and now he easily, without taking too much of a whole damage, he just goes in and snipes the batteries. Of course, the Adept is not there to kill these Stalkers or anything like that, but any additional damage that you can get on this pressure, it's just like a chain reaction on defending 1-gate expand. I had to put down a Panic Force Field, so I don't have a force field right now. There's an Immortal coming in. But this wouldn't be so bad, because I have an Immortal, he has Stalkers, so this is still somewhat playable. I have 2 batteries back somewhere here, which is still in the range of an Immortal. This is not so bad for me. I'm not feeling too bad. But now this happens. Take a look at this. I've walked out far too forward with this, and this Immortal dies at the very, very last shot of a Stalker. 1 Stalker shot, 2nd Stalker shot right here, and the Immortal dies. This Immortal should not ever die to a 4-gate Stalker attack, especially when I have a force field out. And this was the first moment where I'm like, oh my god, I messed up again. And am I again messing up my series where I have things going my way? Like, strategy-wise, this was perfect strategy for me. Robotics facility, absolutely perfect versus 4-gate. So then the pressure continues on. He walks in with the Stalkers. Right now, I could have done one thing that I was too slow to do. I have energy for a force field with this sentry in here. This one, the top sentry, has enough energy for a force field, but I don't force field. He snipes it before I'm capable of doing a force field. Because if I force field the ramp, I can kind of, you know, surround these stalkers, deal some damage a little bit to that. We can use the battery energy. But because I don't do that, he just walks up the ramp, which is still not that bad for me. I have a second immortal here. I kill some stalkers. This is bad for me, but this is playable, you know. I defended. He has to walk back with the stalkers. My immortal survives. I have the batteries here. If we take a look at the worker count, it's not that bad for me. 25 to 24. I have an expansion. I still have an immortal. I don't have any gateways though. So my only I have one gateway. So my only production facility is one gateway and one robotics facility. But most importantly is the robotics facility. I can continuously make immortals to defend against that. So I'm feeling that there's a chance for me to defend that. But what happens next is again a little bit unfortunate for me. I put down this pylon to make a wall off, and also to have a secondary pylon to, you know, power these buildings. I block these adepts from going in. This pylon is blocking the adepts from going in. But what I didn't notice is that there's a gap here between the middle and the, you know, the ramp in here. I thought this is fully blocked, that you cannot go through here. I just didn't think about it this time. So I didn't even think about blocking these adepts. There's a hole between the Nexus and the Serial Battery that I knew about, but I thought you cannot go here. So I thought he cannot shade through. And what happens? The shade goes through. I get force fielded out. And I have two things to worry about. The frontal attack, which I'm not too worried about. I have two batteries. I will have a shield battery overcharge somewhat soon. And even if I lose one immortal, there's a second immortal up already. But these adepts go in to my base. And this is where the real nightmare happens. So I have to pull back the probes, and there's, you know, more pressure happening. And then I have to pull back the probes. There's no more mining. I lost the immortal. The warp prism comes out. I micro as much as possible, but there's very little that I can do to come back into this game anymore because of the adept Shaden. So the two very key things happen in this game. The first one, the immortal being sniped with the last stalker shot. And the second one, just me messing up and letting the shades through because I didn't realize there's a hole in here. And game number one goes in favor of Goblin. And I'm one map away from being knocked out of the entire tournament once again. and game number two started kind of weird because we both played strategies that we didn't expect the other guy to do. So Goblin started with like a 2 gateway Stargate Phoenixes with a delayed Nexus. And I opened up double gateway, which is standard, you know, expansion, but I started up with a Robo. So in theory, this was like not good for me because Phoenixes are very good versus robotic facility unit builds because, you know, there's very little, like robotics just doesn't counter Phoenixes whatsoever, so you can find a lot of damage. But on the other hand, I didn't really hate my position too much because I scouted with a hallucination. I spotted that he's going for the Phoenixes, and I spotted that his expansion is kind of late. So the most important part for me in this game was to not take any damage from the Phoenixes, and I should be okay. The worker count was going well for me, so it was very important for me to not take any damage from the Phoenixes, and I basically didn't take any damage from the Phoenixes whatsoever, which put me in a decent position to push Goblin later on as soon as I had like Blink and Charge. So we both started to macro up, and look at the amount of energy these Phoenixes have. 8 minutes into the game, and I only lost 3 probes. I did a very good job at preventing the Phoenixes from dealing damage, and as soon as I had Charge and Blink done, I went in, and I noticed that there's a big hole in the defense of Goblin. Like, he has no Archons or anything like that, so force fields are actually quite crucial here. So I go between his 4th base and the natural base, and I prevent him from going to defend with his Immortals versus my Stalkers by using force fields. I just need to make sure that I'm doing this, you know, calm and collected. I don't want to rush into this because I'm already down 1-0. If I mess up this attack, there's a very good chance that I will be knocked out of the tournament and I will probably losing this game. So I need to make sure that I'm not messing this one up. So I'm putting my stuff on hold position. I'm trying to find some damage. I kill quite a lot of probes, but Goblin very smartly uses his Phoenixes to snipe my War Prism. And then the other additional Immortal comes up. I don't really deal that much damage, but I kill his 4th base. I kill a lot of probes. So I'm like, okay, let's not force it. Let's wait for the War Prism. I killed a lot of probes. I should be ahead economically. let's just, just take it slow, do it right. So I waited for my Warp Prism to come out of the robotics facility, and about like 30 seconds, 40 seconds later, I arrived with the second Warp Prism. In the meantime, he's dealing much damage with the Phoenixes, but now I see he doesn't have these Phoenixes at the defense, so I'm trying to set up a flank, make sure that I pull him away from the shield batteries and like in a good flanking position from the bottom. He doesn't see this army here at the bottom, so I lure him to the left side, and now his army is very immobile. I do a big flank from all sides surrounding his army, and a beautiful timing attack with +2 attack from my side. He's not able to defend that. Even with super battery, I just had too much, and I'm capable of winning game number 2, and it's 1-1 in the series, and I'm only 1 map away from advancing to the playoffs, or 1 map away from being knocked out of the tournament. Game number 3 started a bit weird. Even though we ended up in the same exact build order spot, a mistake happened from him, which I noticed, and it was not shown on stream, so this is the first time reveal for you. Look at what happens with his probe. You should never lose your probe to just a probe, following. This is my probe, the blue one. And I just kill his probe following. Of course, I was, microing on this side of the map. I was, like, disrupting him. But, as a pro gamer, you're never supposed to lose your scouting worker like that. And at this very moment, already 1 minute and 50 seconds into the game, I knew I had the mental advantage over him. I knew he's, like, either nervous or something. Something is going on in his head that he's not playing at 100%. And I will try to take advantage of that. Shortly after that, another fortunate thing happened to me. I was able to snipe his adept that is supposed to scout if I am expanding or not. And I was able to shot this adept down with the last stalker shot. Right there before it shades out. So if we take a look at the vision of Goblin, he has no idea what I'm doing. I could be, frigate robo 1 base. I could be proxying or something. There could be a lot of things that is happening aggressively. And we're doing basically the same build order as in game number 2, where he's going for, 4 stalkers, 3 stalkers and 1 adept, so this is a slight difference. But still, Phoenix is on one base, and I'm going for 2 stalkers, 2 sentries, and a robotics facility in the meantime. So we're ending up in the same situation as in game number 2, but me being slightly more ahead because he doesn't have any information that I'm expanding, and there's no counter. However, he had the build order advantage only in the sense that, again, it was Phoenixes versus robotics facility, where, again, you need to find damage with the Phoenixes, and as the robot player, you're supposed to try not to take damage from the Phoenixes. However, in this game, I did take a lot of damage from the Phoenixes. Maybe a lot is too much, but I did take more probe damage and earlier probe damage than I did in the previous game without even killing a Phoenix. So I was feeling like, okay, this is not going too well, even though it's a similar situation to game number 2. I'm trying to take a 3rd base, but he's patrolling his Phoenixes around here, preventing me from doing that. So it's already a 4th probe that I'm losing. So I'm sending the stalkers forward, trying to deflect these Phoenixes. I lose another probe, but at least this time, he's lost a Phoenix. And now I'm moving forward. I know he has not enough energy to lift this probe. I saw this Phoenix is going to the north side. I secured the 3rd base. And one thing I noticed in the meantime. This is a very important thing. I see with this observer, he has no 3rd base yet. I'm trying to find some damage, and now this observer gives me crucial information that changes the entire game. I see with this observer, he doesn't have a battery here. He has no battery here. That means that I can find a lot of damage here. I can use my force fields if I only do this attack right. Even though it's not a very strong army, but with the force fields, I have the stronger army here. If I only just do this attack right, I am capable of at least crippling Goblin's army by a lot, maybe killing some probes. So I try to do it as calmly as possible. I send the sentries first. The Phoenixes in the meantime were killing probes. I had no defense here whatsoever, so I lost 8 probes. So this attack has to do a lot of damage, but I know there's a potential here. So this is the first time that I'm feeling that I can maybe win this game if only I do it properly. So I use the force field, I zone out the Immortal. The Immortal is sniped. I have Blink about to finish. The battery, there's still no battery for him. It's just a matter of microing my Stalkers properly. Don't lose these Stalkers stupidly, and I will be able to win this game and advance to the playoffs. That's exactly what was going on in my mind right now. I see there's an F2ing Phoenix that I'm going to be able to snipe. I pull back my Stalkers, Blink finishes. I know that at this stage of the game, there's no way that he's going to have Blink. The only thing I was worried about is a reinforcing Immortal. And there's going to be a reinforcing Immortal. I spotted it right now, but I have a lot of Stalkers here. I trigger the barrier on the Immortal. I blink forward, snipe the Immortal. And now that I see that I have the same amount of Stalkers, or more Stalkers than he has, I'm even warping in batteries in his face. I know that at this moment, I won the series. I won the game because he has not enough firepower in his army. He lost all of his probes. In the meantime, I was also taking a third base, fully saturated, not fully saturated, but, you know, about to be saturated because I was continuously making probes as well. And finally, I finished the series 2-1, and from being down 0-5 in this tournament, in the group stage, without a single map win, I made it to the playoffs, winning all the next series in a row. I was quite happy that even though it started terribly for me, I was able to advance to the playoffs. Thank you guys so much for watching this video of my group stage ESL Masters Winter story. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. Leave a comment, leave a like below, and I'll see you on the next episode of whatever I upload. Let's go, we are in the playoffs.